Chauvin, the fired Minneapolis police officer facing murder charges over George Floyd's death, had 18 prior complaints filed against him. This is according to the police department. One of those complaints was from our next guest, Christopher Berg. Berg says that back in 2013, when he was 17 years old, Officer Chauvin held him and three friends at gunpoint after they shot a Nerf gun. Christopher Berg joins us now. Christopher, thanks so much for being here. And so let's just go back to that day. You were having a Nerf gun battle with your friends, which, as I understand it, was sort of a tradition on the last day of school in Minneapolis or in your neighborhood. And then what happened?
Yeah. So it started, it was about a few weeks before school was out, actually. We were all split into teams, and the goal is to try to hit people on the other teams. So I was coming home, being dropped off by a few friends, and when we were about 2 blocks away from my house, one of the other passengers shot a Nerf dart out the window. You know, it was a brightly colored orange foam dart. And we didn't really think anything of it. A few moments later, the friend pulled up in front of my house. I got out. We had no idea at this point in time that police were following us or any of that. So I get out of the car, I grab my things, turn around. All of a sudden, there are officers on me with guns aimed at me, screaming at me. I can't repeat some of the things they said to me on live TV.
Well, what types of things? I mean, I know you can't say, like, profanity, but what were they yelling at you?
They were telling me to get back in the car, put my hands up. And so I complied with those orders. I dropped my bags on the ground, put my hands up, slowly got back in the car, trying to not make any sudden movements. They then approached the car, still with guns drawn, and asked which one of us had shot the Nerf dart. So at that point, they admitted essentially that they knew it was only a Nerf dart and not something more serious. Yet still they made the choice to pull real guns on us.
That's incredible. So they knew that it was a Nerf gun. They were, I mean, I've read your report, they were hollering all sorts of profanity at you, and they had their guns drawn on you. And then what happened? Were one of you detained in the police car?
Yeah, the person who shot the dart admitted to having done that, and so he was detained in the squad car for what felt like an eternity, while the rest of us were still in the car, still with our hands up. And eventually, they let him go, they let all of us go. None of us were charged with any crimes. And when I was exiting the vehicle, after being told that I could, one of the officers, I don't recall if it was Chauvin or the other one, they said to me that most of us will be 18 by the end of the year, which means we'll go to big boy jail. And considering which one of us is in big boy jail now, that hasn't aged well for them.
That is an ironic twist. And so your feeling when you saw George Floyd's death, I know that this incident came flooding back to you, and what is your feeling about that now?
Well, I was horrified when I saw it. We all were. The only thing I could think was what would have happened differently if my friends and I weren't all white. How would Chauvin and his partner have escalated that situation even further, potentially lethally?
Yeah, how could you not think that? I mean, I know that you posted on Facebook saying that you believe that your whiteness saved you from a worse fate that day.
I really think it did. I think if we weren't white, you know, they actually told my mom after the incident was over that we had been trying to elude them, which was preposterous since we didn't know that they were even behind us. They didn't use their sirens or anything. So I think if we were not white, they would have spun that into the narrative. When I got out of the car after supposedly eluding them, you know, they would have seen that as a threat. And the whole narrative could have really been crafted in a different way that many people would probably be saying it was justified.
I know that you filed a report because that was you felt an excessive response for the firing of a Nerf gun. And the police called you, I guess, a month later and said that they couldn't divulge that what had happened, what the end result of the report was, but they acknowledged that you had filed one, which was sort of, I know, an unsatisfying response for you. We want to let our viewers know that CNN did reach out to the Minneapolis Police Department. We were directed to the city attorney's office. They have not responded to our request for comment. We also reached out to former officer Derek Chauvin, his attorney, and we have not heard back. But Chris